Welcome back to Great Day Washington. Political and social issues are hot button topics, and they can spark, as we all know, some pretty intense conversations. I spoke with etiquette expert Sharon Schweitzer for some tips on how to maintain civility or to politely exit those discussions to avoid arguments. Here's more.
As we all know, politics can be tough to discuss when you don't agree on the politics. What do you recommend for people trying to talk to somebody, especially now for the inauguration, to keep things peaceful?
Well, one of the best things you can do is realize that in the US, we all have our own cultural conditioning. Whether we are from the US or from another country, we all have our own basis for how we view discussing politics. And sometimes there are generational differences. Some people are very comfortable discussing politics, some people are not. Younger generations tend to be more comfortable. Some people will come right out and ask direct questions. Others will be a little more indirect, kind of beat around the bush before they get right there down to the question. So we need to be prepared for someone to ask us about politics in many different ways. And one of the best things you can do is think about how you are going to respond to those questions before they happen. Otherwise, you feel like a deer in the headlights. Exactly. So if you're going to be watching or thinking about or doing any kind of engaging with anyone else, you need to be prepared to handle these questions, and you want to do so graciously. So you need to decide, number one, am I going to keep my views private? Number two, am I going to share my views? And number three, if I do share them, how am I going to back them up? Am I going to use research, or am I just going to say, here's my opinion and leave it out there? Because if someone like your supervisor or your boss asks you, you need, if you don't know their background and how they voted or their views, you could be in hot water.
I think it's interesting you said you can remain private about your opinions, because with social media today, I feel like everyone just puts it out there. What does it mean to be silent right now about your political views?
Well, many times people will ask you, what do you think about what happened recently? And if you want to remain private, what you can say are things like, well, I've been watching and observing what's happening, and it's still developing. It's such a developing situation. So I'm continuing to watch what's happening. I've been doing a lot of reading, and the jury is still out. So I continue to read. What are your thoughts? And that gives you the privacy. It shows you're still observing and you're engaged, but you haven't really shared your opinion, because we really need to know our audience before we share our opinions.
That's true. What about the person who just keeps coming after you with that persistent question? If you're not answering it, then what do you do?
Well, sometimes we all run into those, pit bull people in our life who really, really want to stay attached to that little dog bone or Benny bone. And when that happens, what we have to do is we have to be prepared to kind of segue to another topic or close the conversation graciously. So we can either say something like, I really don't feel comfortable sharing any more than I've already shared with you. And some people don't even want to be that direct. And they would rather say, well, I appreciate your thoughts. Thank you for your interesting point of view. Tell me about your son. I understand he was just accepted at a major university up north. Or, congratulations, I understand your daughter is going to be a Husky and is just been accepted and had success. Tell me about that. What are her plans? Try to change a subject into something they are passionate about, and see if you can't get them over on a new topic.
Yeah, pivot the conversation, it sounds like. If you are never going to believe the same things, how do you kind of reconcile those conflicting beliefs?
Well, if this person is someone you can have a civil discussion with, what you can do is cite research that is not going to antagonize them. So cite research from different institutes or sources that they won't find aggravating. If you are going to get to the point where that you're just, maybe you should talk about other topics, then you can segue to those. But what you want to do is you don't want to have your relationship disintegrate over something like a political discussion. because we want to keep our long-term relationships. They weave the fabric of our lives.
Yes, yes. We've got to remember that as we get through the rest of the month.
All right, you can also get more tips from Sharon Schweitzer by following her page on Facebook. That is Access to Culture. Well, we're going to check out the new fitness craze. It is